Hi, everyone. This is Bill Correa with Nice Lots and Fleming. Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate you being able to carve out some time today in terms of a busy schedule on a Friday here during AEP to talk a little bit with us about Pennsylvania and some of the items that are going on in the dual SNP market, specifically the Community Health Choices program that has launched here in fourth quarter in the state of Pennsylvania. In order to try to clarify a lot of the misinformation that's out there, one of the things that we wanted to do was get some folks who are working hand in hand with state government every day in terms of being able to roll this out. So got a couple of folks on the phone. In terms of our agenda today, here's what we're going to kind of go through. First thing is we're going to give an introduction in terms of what is Community Health Choices? What is it that the program was designed to do? What do we overall think that the intention was in putting this program together? Then we're going to get into what I deem are the 5 key questions in regards to Community Health Choices and the impact on the dual special needs plan market, something that is basically completely unaddressed both by their website as well as any of the information that they are putting out. We're then going to take questions from our attendees today. Want to make sure that we work through as many of those as possible. In looking at the folks who had both registered and attended, we've got some of our top dual SNP writers on the line today. Additionally, going to want to be able to give this recording out to some of our other folks who are heavily involved in the low-income market, just so that we make sure that we're all operating eyes wide open, moving forward in terms of our low-income business. And then we'll kind of finish out with some closing thoughts on where we are and where we're headed for the balance of 2018. So in terms of some of the folks that are on the call today, my name is Bill Correa. I know most of you that are on the call. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Nice Lots and Fleming, which basically means I'm super responsible for Medicare Supplement, Medicare Advantage, and everything senior market, making sure that all of our agents with whom we partner have everything they need to be productive. Additionally, we've got Blair Barak on the call, who's nice enough to join us. He's the Chief Operating Officer of the Pennsylvania Community Plan at United Healthcare. Blair, I thank you very much for jumping on with us. Also, Michael Sapusik, who's a good friend of mine who we've worked together for a very long time, who's the Regional Sales Director for the Northeast region for United Healthcare Community and State, one of the leaders in terms of the dual SNP marketing team at United Healthcare. Glad that Mike was able to join us. Any of the other folks who were able to join, if you want to chime in that I may have missed?
Hey, Rob McBrien's here, VP Sales and Marketing for the Pennsylvania Community Plan.
Thanks, Rob. Rich, were you able to jump on today? Okay. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and just jump right into it. Let's dive into our 5 key questions. So the first question that I will pose to our panel of experts here, what is the purpose of the Community Health Choices program here in Pennsylvania?
I can kick off. This is Blair Barak. Today, I work for a community plan which is responsible for Medicaid, CHIP, and DSNP products for United Healthcare in Pennsylvania. And there's an additional new program called Community Health Choices, of which United Healthcare is not a participant. These members today are not with managed care at all. They're in a state fee-for-service program that does not have the level of management. These individuals are either dual eligible, it's their Medicaid secondary benefit, or they receive what is commonly referred to as waiver services or LTSS services, which is long-term supports and services. There's old school thinking. PA is a little late to the game from some of the other markets in terms of moving this population into managed care. It was a part of Medicaid that was carved out from managed care. So Health Choices Medicaid today, we have that product. Nothing's changing there. But these people were carved out. There was an old school thinking that managed care really, there wasn't a role for managed care with this population. But what's shown over time, mostly through success in other states, because there's a lot of opportunity to help these individuals with managed care programs. A lot of them are in nursing facilities, but could be living at home if they had wraparound benefits that allow them to live in their homes, such as home modifications and personal care attendants, things like that, things that are less costly than nursing facilities. So cost is one of the goals of the state in terms of Community Health Choices Plan, but they're very adamant about that being, first and foremost, it's to provide a better quality of life for individuals and allow them to live in their community. So that's a key objective of that, to allow more people to live in a community and less people in a nursing facility. And I think they did a study, over 90% of those in the nursing facility would prefer to live in the community if they had that opportunity. It's not necessarily for everybody, but it's a majority of people. So that's the primary purpose, stated objective of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania with implementing this program. And like I said, they've seen those successes in other markets, other states, and felt it was time.
Great. So let's go ahead to question number 2. Why does none of the communication that consumers are receiving in any way, shape, or form address dual special needs plans?
I think it may not be the most clear, but on the notices I've seen, there's all this is on the DHS website, and they show what was mailed out to the different groups of folks, and there is a box in there that does say this will not affect your Medicare. Perhaps they could have done more, but it's in there somewhere. Perhaps it's going to be displayed more prominently, but they did put that out there.
Yeah, the people disseminating the communications have been, are just very focused on what they've been doing today, which is managing this group in fee-for-service and moving it to managed care. And they haven't, I think because they're so focused within that circle and may have, missed the opportunity to be clear, I think a lot of the confusion, and thanks, Rob, I appreciate you pointing out that they do mention it, but I think a lot of the confusion, they just didn't have that external focus on how those messages might be perceived, that there's more to the picture than just the benefits they've been administering. And we have opportunities to provide feedback to the Office of Long-Term Living within Department of Human Services to help shape future communications and make sure they're aware of the confusion it's created. But I think probably the biggest piece of it is they'll talk about who's impacted, people receiving waiver services for LTSS and dual eligibles. Well, dual eligible people, that's why they have that name, dual eligible, because they have two different benefits. They have Medicare primary, the DSNP plan, and they have Medicaid secondary, and they're dual eligible, but they have to explain this is only changing that secondary Medicaid benefit. They could have been, I think it was just not realizing how the confusion they'd create. They could have been more clear to indicate this does not, put it bigger and in multiple places. This does not impact your Medicare eligibility or any of your Medicare benefits. This is just changing those Medicaid benefits.
Okay. So let's hit question number 3. What will happen to an existing dual SNP member's plan when they are auto-enrolled into a CHC program?
Absolutely nothing. No changes to their Medicare.
I agree with Rob. And if for anybody's curious, what does auto-enrolled mean? All Community Health Choices members in this fee-for-service program today will receive information and will be given their choices to enroll in a plan, either because not 100% of everybody gets reached by the state's Medicaid enrollment broker, or because they just don't respond if they are reached. Not everybody actually actively chooses a plan, and we see that in Medicaid too, and those people are auto-assigned. The state has an auto-assignment formula. They try to look at, if it is a DSNP that also has a Community Health Choices plan, they'll enroll them there first. Then they'll look if their PCP is with the DSNP plan, and with the Community Health Choices plan, the person they indicated is their PCP. They'll see if they're within that Community Health Choices plan. But again, it's only affecting that Medicaid secondary benefit that they're getting auto-enrolled in if they don't actively choose one. Nothing with that auto-enrollment process will cause anybody to disenroll from a Medicare DSNP plan.
All right, so let's move into question 4. Is there any benefit to a member having their dual special needs plan with the same company that holds their CHC enrollment?
All right, start with that, Rob. I mean,
it's really up to, I guess, each individual member to kind of review their options, but I don't know I can say that there's any benefit to it. They can stick with their current DSNP plan. They don't need to make any changes to that.
Yeah, one of the things the state's been really mindful of, they could have done some things like some other states have done, such as Ohio and New Jersey, to try and force an alignment, and they opted not to. They saw the strength and value of having choice with Medicare plans, and they said that, and that's why they didn't opt that. There's only 3 Community Health Choices plans, and many more than that in terms of the number of DSNP plans in the state. And so what their approach has been, and we had an initial meeting with the state, is to have good coordination between the Medicare and Community Health Choices. So if somebody goes to the hospital, how can we make sure and not violate HIPAA privacy rules, but be able to coordinate, communicate benefits and coverage with the 2 plans? And they're doing that so it can be seamless and so that people don't have to choose their DSNP plan or feel that they need to align. And what we've seen in other markets is that when members are given the choice, it's very, very common for them to choose 2 different plans for their Medicare benefits and their Medicaid benefits. Tennessee is an example where we have a plan and they have that choice. And, I think, half of our members, we are in both Community Health Choices and Medicare in Tennessee, and only about half the members are in both. The others are in one or the other because they prefer the benefits, and that's usually the most important driving factor.
Yeah, and to add to that, Blair and Rob, not only the benefits, you got to look at the benefits, but you also have to look at the network. If one of the plans out there doesn't have a strong network,
right.
Why would you push somebody and want them to change doctors? So you really got to look at the benefits. You got to look at the network. Another example is we have there's a plan out in Washington D.C. Where we don't have the CAID contract, but we've grown by like 5,000 members over the past couple of years, and the folks that actually do have the contracts are pretty much stagnant. So it depends on the benefits. It depends on the network, like Rob and Blair had said.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Mike, because when you think about the 3 Community Health Choices plans, so they're starting Community Health Choices in the Southwest and getting member notices out. That's where the confusion's starting. 2 of the 3 Community Health Choices plans have, one, no prior DSNP experience in the state, the other very little in the Southwest. As far as 2 of the 3 plans having really not much of a presence and just starting to build those networks. So I'm not expecting a ton of alignment for that reason. And then, a 3rd plan who does have an established DSNP in the Southwest, they're going to be doing health choices in the other zones where they are not a big player. So, I think there's probably PA will be a state where there's lower alignment than states where it's mostly the same players for both products.
Yep.
And the network, like you said, is a big reason for that.
Yeah, it's hard to get people to understand that, and I really never understood it until I saw historically how like Tennessee and DC and how even if you have those contracts, you really have to have the benefits, you have to have the network, and then you have to know what you're doing with that. So there's a lot to it besides just having that contract.
Okay, thanks. So let's hit key question number 5. What are the rules under which the CHC providers can outreach or try to enroll their CHC members into their dual SNP plan if they have one in the state?
We did pose that question to the state because there was some uncertainty about that. They did respond that the CHCs are allowed to market, to their members, to their CHC members. They are allowed to market their dual SNP plan. That was basically the almost verbatim response from the state.
Yeah, so if they have the Medicaid side of the benefit and they're offering a D-SNP plan, they can suggest or tell the member, we'd recommend you join our plan. And so, I think the important thing, we're working on an additional member communication right now, is just to remind members that they are able to keep their benefits. This change that they may have received a communication about does not in any way affect their Medicare eligibility, enrollment, or benefits.
Okay.
When you think about it, in Community Health Choices, 95% are dual eligible. There's a small percentage that just receive Medicaid, and so they're not going to impact you at all. But of those dual eligibles, 80% of them are not these waiver services where they're receiving significant benefits through Medicaid for things that Medicare doesn't cover. So when I say waiver services, there's a 20% of this group is qualified to be nursing facility clinically eligible, and whether they're in a nursing facility or in the home, they get all these additional services that Medicare doesn't cover. But it's not medical services; those are basically home and community-based services and some nursing facility additional services. And so, the medical benefit, it doesn't have a lot of overlap with that. So there's really not a strong benefit, that we see for them to align. And then for the rest of the population, that's the 20% receiving those high-cost Medicaid services. The other 20% are receiving very little at all from Medicaid. It's just secondary coverage for the very things that we're covering through Medicare. So really, their first consideration should be the Medicare program that they prefer, not the Medicaid program, which isn't really, it's just a secondary backstop for them. Shouldn't be the driver behind their decision. It should be what Medicare plan that the member likes best.
That's an excellent point, Blair. Excellent point.
No, it's good feedback. All right, so at this point in time, we want to take questions from the agents who were able to jump on the call today. There's two ways in which you can do that. The best way is to send it through the Q&A panel so that we can kind of mark off which questions we've answered or not. The other way is through the chat panel. So please go ahead and start submitting those questions. I know we've already got some in there, and we're just going to kind of roll through these questions as best as we possibly can in trying to answer as many of them as we possibly can during our time availability today. Okay, let's see here. All right, so the first question that I've got from Mike, Mike is asking, is there a possibility that a consumer who is on a D-SNP and has been auto-enrolled into a HealthChoices plan could have two primary care physicians, and how would that function?
So that's something that in this collaboration meeting we had with to talk about coordination between plans is something that we started to discuss. And so the concern would be if they choose another Medicaid plan other than the D-SNP plan, what happens if their Medicare primary care doctor is not in the network of that Community Health Choices plan? One of the things I think about is that because those Community Health Choices plans are trying to have a broad network, the likelihood that none of those plans has a PCP that we have for Medicare is low. The member should try to choose a Community Health Choices plan that has the PCP that they prefer for D-SNP. I think there'd be very low likelihood. The other thing that the state has asked the Community Health Choices plans to do is if they have a DSNP PCP that's not in their network, try to include them for better coordination of care. And so that's going to be something they're pushing, because it could be a problem for a member. I mean, what could happen is that their secondary benefit, Medicaid, won't get covered if they're seeing an out-of-network doctor, and so that's a challenge today, even without Community Health Choices. We try to help members choose a DSNP, we try in our network to make sure all of our DSNP doctors also accept Medicaid. There's a few that haven't, but we try to do that and try and encourage them to also Medicaid so that they can have that secondary benefit, secondary coverage. And that's what they'll do with Community Health Choices as well. But I'll be eager to please keep the questions, coming to Mike Sapusik and I talk about the different, what questions that come up and whether there's a member impact or not. And so if you're hearing concerns, I'd like to hear about it. But we think it'll be a very, very small percentage, very, very small, because between the three Community Health Choices plans, they should be one that has that primary care doc in the network.
Okay. Next question coming from Rachel. Rachel is asking, I guess that there is a group called Health Butler in Butler County, Pennsylvania, that Health Butler is telling consumers that they are not required to participate in the CHC program. Are you aware that there's any sort of waiver that's been issued to any sort of group in terms of CHC participation?
No, I mean, for Community Health Choices network participation, there's like a 6-month any willing provider clause in the contracts of the Community Health Choices MCOs that they have to, for 6 months, cover those doctors whether they're in the network or not, or accept anybody, for 6 months. And then after that, members can only be covered by a network doctor. I mean, I don't know if that's related or not related to what you heard, but I hadn't heard that personally before.
Okay.
We can take some of these takeaways too if they're, also.
Okay. Next question that I've got is from Dwight. Dwight is asking, is there any restriction in terms of marketing a dual special needs plan to someone who's on original Medicare and Medicaid and has been auto-enrolled into a CHC plan? Does that presence of the CHC plan in any way affect our current marketing process of dual special needs plans?
Not at all. Not at all. We can still market to them.
Excellent.
And as an organization, we think that's a great, a huge opportunity for us to connect with those members that are just in, straight CMS Medicare, not in managed care. We still think that's a, huge opportunity for us.
If we have this question is coming from Jessica. Jessica asks, will dual eligibles who are currently in a long-term care setting be asked to make changes to becoming on a CHC plan based upon the fact that they're already in a long-term care setting?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that one more time for me? For some reason my brain wasn't working. Sure. I didn't fully follow the question.
That's okay. I was struggling with it too. Jessica asks, if someone is already in a long-term care setting, okay, will they be asked to enroll into the Community Health Choices plan based upon the fact that they're already out of the home?
Yes. So with I get it now. So for those individuals, such as someone who's been in a nursing facility, for long term, and what the state determines long term is more than 30 days. If someone's in a nursing facility, there's just say regular Medicaid, they're a nursing facility, and for a short time they stay with the Medicaid plan. But if they're been in a long-term setting, then such as a nursing facility, and getting those payments through state fee-for-service, they are also moving to Community Health Choices plan instead of fee-for-service. And what that looks like is I mentioned that 20% of the Community Health Choices members receive these long-term supports and services. About half of them are in a nursing facility, and about half are in the community. So it's close to 50-50. It might be like 52% in nursing facility, 48% in a home or home-based setting. But both those groups, whether in the nursing facility or in a home, they are no longer, basically states getting out of the business of doing insurance and managed care. They're moving those people to Community Health Choices.
Okay. Question here from Bruce, which is an interesting one. The question he poses is, do we have to worry about hospitals and nursing facilities being in network for Community Health Choices? Just a commentary on my part, with understanding that these plans are designed to keep people in the home, I don't know why a hospital network or a nursing facility network would be appropriate, but that's why we have you on the call. Is that a concern in terms of, which CHC plan our DSNP members get enrolled into?
Yeah. So the nursing, not so much for the nursing facility. With the hospital, a consideration could be that secondary coverage. So if you're helping one of our DSNP members or potential DSNP members, and they're also asking about which Community Health Choices plan they should choose, I think by helping them choose a plan that has their preferred doctors or hospitals in it will benefit them, and it also could reduce the risk of them wanting to leave our plan because it'll be well coordinated, in terms of that secondary coverage. So what Medicaid does for them, in addition to providing waiver services to those that are nursing facility eligible, it also provides that secondary coverage. And so in my mind, if they choose a Community Health Choices plan that has similar doctors and hospitals in their network to our DSNP plan, they're going to be a happier member because they won't have any issues with that secondary coverage, and there'll be better coordination and less of a need for them to try and align their Community Health Choices plan with their DSNP plan, in terms of less of a need to think, I need to choose the same plan for both. So I think there's some benefit in that. Yeah, that was a good question. That's not something I'd given a lot of thought to before you just asked it. Yeah.
Well, the agent who asked it is a real pro, so I would expect that the question he's posing is going to be next level. Just kind of a follow-up on that last question. It's really just about information sharing then, because obviously if you're a dual SNP member, all of your medical care and claims are routing through the dual special needs plan. You could be on Jimmy's CHC plan, but all of your care would still be covered, even if the only place that they had a network was Jimmy's hospital. It wouldn't matter where you go, because all of the actual claims payment that's going on is going through the dual special needs plan. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, but there's a cost here, since our DSNP members are not, themselves don't have liability. They're supposed to have, their co-pays, co-insurance, things like that covered through Medicaid. And so today, just about every provider, they can get that secondary coverage through fee-for-service. There's a few that aren't enrolled in Medicaid, and that creates a problem where the provider might try to balance bill, and they're not allowed to. So it's not that the member should have risk or liability, but it could create some angst and some noise if they don't know the rules and try to balance bill the member. And we've seen that in every state with DSNP. Sometimes there's a Medicare provider not accepting Medicaid. They try and balance bill the member. So the hospital's not allowed to do that, or the doctor. But to the extent that they're choosing a plan that doctor for Medicaid that also has a similar network, it shouldn't be their driving, considerations. Medicare is the primary, and almost everything goes through those benefits you're discussing are covered by Medicare. But it can either, reduce that risk of maybe someone getting balanced billed. And the doctor, if the doctor's happier, hopefully the patient's happier too. The doctor's not eating the cost, that they're able to get that secondary reimbursement. So, we're not supposed to specifically on Medicaid or Community Health Choices, there's an enrollment broker that manages that, what they call the shopping experience for the member. So we're not supposed to specifically recommend specific health plans, but you can tell a member, that consideration they could look at when they're choosing a Community Health Choices plan, make sure their preferred doctors and hospitals are also in that plan too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So in looking through here, I think we've addressed all of the questions. Oh wait. Here's another question that I'm getting from Jessica. Jessica asks, are there any suggestions you can offer to help agents protect their dual special needs plan book?
Mike, what would you say in light of the information we've shared? I mean, the most important thing is to let people know that this change, even though it's confusing in terms of how it affects their Medicaid benefit, the most important message is, like I said at the beginning of the call, nobody's losing eligibility or coverage. No one's benefits are changing, with Medicare. I mean, that's the main message, is that even though Medicaid may also cover some of these things, it doesn't impact their coverage of that benefit for DSNP, and in no way does it affect their ability to be enrolled with us.
Yeah, and to add to that, as an agent, as a broker, I know I was a broker. I wanted to protect my book. You guys got to be careful out there of the swirl that some of the companies are really trying to start with. The state, the writing is a little bit loose, and you can take the writing 10 different ways and go with it, the meaning of it. So you got to really be careful, and that's kind of why we're having this call today, to educate everybody on the exact meaning of what's going on. And to add to that, if you compare the benefits out there of the plans, and just to talk a little bit about our benefits, if you look at the debit card, if you look at the catalog, if you look at the network, if you compare all of that stuff with the other plans out there, you want to put the member on the best plan possible. Otherwise, you might lose it that way also. So there's a lot of different ways to look at this. So I'm really happy, Bill, for putting on this call, and Nicewas and Fleming, and for Blair and Rob joining and really trying to clarify all of this for you guys, the agents out there. Kind of went 5 different directions on that.
Yeah. Well, and from my perspective, and in the many years that we've worked with agents who are engaged in the low-income market, the single most important thing to do to protect your book is to talk to your consumers on a regular basis. It's interesting that when we look at retention statistics in the dual markets, we've got agents that are plus 85% in terms of their books, and we have agents that are, at like 50%. And the biggest, and it usually doesn't have to deal with the neighborhoods they're working or how they found the consumer or, what area of the country that they're in. It really comes down to, are they talking to those consumers on a regular basis? So, I think that CHC will honestly have less of an impact in terms of agents' retention of their members than what are the things that they're doing on a monthly basis to continue to engage with their consumers. Because if the consumer knows you and trusts you and that you are truly their resource, they're not going to flip you because some clown from some CHC plan calls up and says, "Hey, you should move to our dual SNP plan." They're going to say, "Well, no, you're not Jim. You're not Bob, my agent, who calls me once a month. Why would I want to work with you?" So that to me is the single biggest point in terms of retention and persistency, is that if your consumer looks at you as the trusted resource, some random phone call from a CHC plan isn't going to cause them to flip their dual SNP case. All right. We have one more question that's come in. I think we'll take this one as the last one. Last question coming in is from Todd. Todd is asking, is there a common website where agents can go to see all of the various networks for these CHC plans available in Pennsylvania?
Let me find out for you. I don't know offhand. In Medicaid, there is a consumer website that you can see which you can look up doctors and hospitals and see if they're in a CHC and a HealthChoices Medicaid Plans network. I would think because a lot of community health choices they're modeling after the success of Medicaid that it'll be there, but I haven't heard anything about them building that out yet. Unless Mike or Rob, you've heard anything, I have to take that question back.
I've seen a lot of documentation, all different things they have out there to the community, to providers, to members, but I have not seen one place that would have that, but I'll keep looking.
Mm-hmm. The enrollment brokers are the main, all the Medicaid and, all the Medicaid Health Choices plans, as well as the MLTSS and Community Health Choices plans, are required to submit full weekly files to the Medicaid enrollment broker, Maximus, so that they can help members, identify what's a good health plan for them based on, who's in the networks. But we'll have to take back and see and share with you if they're going to do the same thing they did with Medicaid, which is also create a website lookup for consumers and external parties. So.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, we'd appreciate that, helping keeping us up to date on what's happening in terms of changes. So just in terms of some closing thoughts for me, and then if any of our panelists who were gracious enough to join us today on kind of short notice have any closing thoughts, we'll have those as well. For me, I'll be honest, I don't think that we at Nice Lawson Fleming are any less interested in continuing to invest into the dual special needs plan market here in southwestern Pennsylvania. The majority of that is with United Healthcare, based upon the fact that they have a tremendous county distribution. The plan's been tremendous. Many of you, we've been working hand in hand with that product in particular to really try to grow it out, and had a number of initiatives in play. That continues to be the more I learn about CHC, I still believe that that's an area that we're going to continue to invest time, energy, and dollars in continuing to grow it. I know that there are a couple agents we had spoken to that said they had concerns about continuing to invest in dual SNP marketing with any carrier in southwestern Pennsylvania, but based upon the research that we've done and the advice of the folks who are on the call today, I think this still continues to be an excellent market to spend time and energy to grow your book and grow your revenue. So, any other closing thoughts from our panelists?
I had one. I don't know if you guys feel or see much pressure or competition from what's called the LIFE program in Pennsylvania. It's also known as PACE in other states. Somebody's confused about which is that, but it's a kind of a Medicaid, Medicare wraparound program that's existed long before Community Health Choices, where members, a lot of them are adult daycare based programs. They tend to cater to people that have more medical needs or more long-term care type needs. But for a couple of years, they've been concerned about losing their business to United Healthcare, coming along with really strong benefits. One of the things I heard they were trying to do is make use of the confusion to say, don't get confused, just kind of come to us and we'll take care of everything for you. I just wanted to make people aware of that and see if anybody's heard anything like that, and if you're familiar with the LIFE programs in Pennsylvania.
I know from my standpoint, I'm aware of it, but it has not really presented any sort of difficulty or issue in terms of our ability to generate new business or retain existing business. So it's really been a non-factor for us in terms of our conversations with our agents who are involved in the low-income market in terms of what they're able to generate and keep.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I know those programs are small; they don't have a huge presence, and compared to managed care DSNP plans, but they are a competitor too, in a way. They do good work, and it's the right choice for some people. But I know that they're also a business and have had concerns over the last couple of years about losing their business because we can offer stronger benefits.
Okay.
We heard from one case manager that the LIFE program was talking to to one of our DSNP members kind of using Community Health Choices, trying to maybe muddy the waters and trying to use the confusion to encourage a member to join their life program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rob, Rich, Mike, any other closing thoughts before we wrap up our call today?
Hopefully this was helpful. I'm sure Mike's already gone over with you guys the expansion counties and all that stuff, so nothing else from my end.
Yeah, no, the only thing that I could say is, since we've been back in the market, the dual plan since January of 2016, we've been the top growing dual SNP health plan in Western Pennsylvania. And if you look ahead with the enhanced benefits that we have for next year and the expansion counties, it looks like it should continue. So we get the reason why we had this call, we get probably about 70% of our total business from you guys out there in the field. So we want to continue that, and if more questions come up, just please raise them, and we'll do our best to answer them for you, like today.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, everyone, I really appreciate you jumping on the call today. Rob, Blair, Mike, Rich, it's really helpful to try to gain some clarity with a lot of the misinformation or lack of information around Community Health Choices. I really wanted to provide this information as an asset to our brokers so they understand, in terms of the business that they're trying to generate, what the forecast is for that over the course of the coming year to 2 years. Who can say longer than that? But that's really appreciated in helping us bring some clarity to things. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So with that, guys, again, this is Bill Correa with Nice Lots and Fleming, going to close out our call today. But I want to say thank you. Number one, thanks for attending our call today. It's AEP. It's a busy time. I appreciate you carving it out for us. But most importantly, thank you for your partnership. Thank you for trusting Nice Lots and Fleming to be part of your business. And we hope that we're continuing to deliver value to you every day. So with that, good luck with the rest of your Friday. If you need anything else, please don't hesitate to give us a call. And we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Wonderful. Thank you.